It has been a long day. The world outside has quieted, and the night has grown deep enough for your thoughts to rest. Above you, the sky expands like a vast ocean of silence, where light still travels, slow, patient, carrying memories from stars that vanished long ago. Every breath you take seems to echo that distance, a reminder that even stillness moves softly through the dark. Far beyond the sun's familiar glow, there are worlds that do not shine. Planets adrift in shadow, unseen yet real, kept in orbit by the quiet pull of gravity. Tonight, you do not need to understand them. You only need to drift with their silence, letting the light fade gently beyond the sun's reach. Not everything we see is real, and not everything real can be seen. Long before glass learned to bend light, the night was simple. Darkness fell, and the world below disappeared, leaving only a wide, breathing sky. There were no city lamps to wash the stars away, no engines, no satellites, only pinpoints of fire scattered across a silent roof that seemed to belong to no one and to everyone at once. In that old darkness, the sky was not something to decode. It was something to live with, to listen to trust. People looked up and saw lights that stayed and lights that moved, but they did not yet have the words to divide them. Everything that glowed was called a star because light was the only proof a thing was real. Some of those lights, the ones we now call planets, did not burn on their own. They were only returning sunlight, like calm water returning the color of dawn. But to eyes that had only the night and the slow turning of seasons, a light was a light. If it shone, it was alive. If it crossed the sky, it was powerful. This was the age when sight was still innocent. The human mind had not yet filled the heavens with formulas and distances. It filled them with stories, shepherds lying on cold hillsides, sailors on dark seas, travelers keeping a fire through the night. They watched certain stars wander slowly among the others and felt that these must be special. The Greeks would later call them planetae, the wandering ones, because while the great canvas of the sky held still, these few lights drifted, patient and unhurried. Against it, a wandering star was not frightening. It was simply different, the way a single leaf might fall later than the rest, or a single wave might take a longer time to break. In that world of slow observation, motion meant intention. If a light moved, perhaps it was a messenger. If a light returned to the same place months later, perhaps it was loyal. If a light disappeared, perhaps it had gone to speak with the gods. No one could prove otherwise. So they named them after what was most important: love, war, kingship, beauty. A red wandering star might become the sign of courage. A bright pale one might become the emblem of tenderness. Naming was a way to make the night smaller, to make the moving heavens feel closer to the human heart. Astronomers today would say those lights were simply worlds reflecting the sun, held in their paths by gravity, turning as all things turn. But in those first long nights, before lenses, before domes of observatories, before mathematics found orbits, people did what humans always do in the face of mystery. They made meaning. They answered silence with story, and every myth that rose from those fires and whisperings had the same quiet origin. It did not begin in imagination alone, but in the simple act of looking up. Every myth begins as a way to explain the sky. It was a quiet spring night in 1781. The air above Bath, England, was still, and cold, carrying only the faint hum of crickets and the turning of gears from a small observatory behind a modest house. Inside, William Herschel leaned over his handmade telescope. A long brass tube, polished by his own hands, pointed toward a patch of sky he had studied many times before. The lens trembled slightly in the chill, but the image it held was steady, a faint bluish light that refused to behave like a star. For centuries, people had gazed upward with nothing but their eyes, believing the heavens were complete, a fixed ceiling of light. But through this fragile tube of glass, the night changed. What Herschel saw that evening was not a new star, but a wandering world much farther than any known before. It moved, slow and stubborn, across the background of fixed points. It was Uranus, the first planet discovered through a telescope. The first time a tool, not a myth, had revealed something hidden in the sky. Light from Uranus did not come from within. It was borrowed sunlight, reflected from its clouded surface. A cold echo of warmth, traveling across nearly 3 billion kilometers of space. Through the telescope, that reflection looked small and shy, like a candle seen through fog. Yet that faint dot carried a quiet revelation. Not all light is born from fire. Some light is a memory of something brighter, traveling through the darkness to be seen again. From that moment, the universe began to feel larger, not because it had grown, but because humanity's reach had. The telescope became a new kind of eye, one that could bend light, stretch distance, and transform wonder into knowledge. What once required faith could now be seen, drawn, measured. Still, the wonder did not vanish. It deepened, finding peace in precision. The night sky was no longer a mystery to worship, but a landscape to explore, gently, respectfully, with the patience of light itself. Herschel did not only discover a planet that night, he discovered what humanity could do when it decided to look closer. Through the cold metal and curved glass of his telescope, he saw not just Uranus, but the possibility of every discovery that would follow. And in that moment, as the faint blue light met his eye, something older than time seemed to whisper. That curiosity, too, is a kind of light. Through glass, humanity saw its own curiosity reflected back. When the world first understood that the planets moved not in perfect circles, but in soft, stretched ellipses, the heavens seemed to exhale. The discovery came quietly, drawn from years of patient watching and calculation, yet its meaning reached beyond numbers. Each orbit, once thought divine and unchangeable, became a living path shaped by gravity, a pull both gentle and inevitable, holding the sun and its companions in a slow, endless dance. The solar system was no longer a collection of wandering lights, but a family bound by invisible threads of motion and balance. In old drawings, the new understanding took form. Astronomers traced loops and curves on parchment, their ink turning darkness into geometry. The sun sat no longer at the edge, but at the center, radiating light and gravity alike. Around it, each planet found its place. Mercury quick and restless, Venus calm and bright, Earth steady in its middle distance, and the distant giants tracing long, patient journeys through the outer dark. The heavens, once imagined as the home of gods, began to feel like a clockwork of light, precise, vast, and quietly beautiful. This realization changed not only science, but how humanity saw itself. The sky was no longer a stage for divine will. It was a field of law and harmony. To see the planets move by order, not by miracle, was not to lose mystery, but to find it anew. In the simplicity of the rules that shaped everything. The pull of gravity was no longer an abstract force. It became the language of connection, the reason every moon, every tide, and every breath on Earth could exist at all. In dusty observatories and small rooms lit by candles, people copied charts and diagrams, trying to comprehend this new order. Every orbit mapped was a confession of humility. The cosmos did not revolve around us, yet it still included us. The same rules that guided Jupiter's moons governed the fall of an apple and the beat of a human heart. Knowledge did not lift humanity above the stars. It wove them closer to everything else. All great understanding begins with a single act of looking. Herschel's telescope, Kepler's numbers, Newton's equations. Each began with someone noticing that something in the sky moved differently than expected. Seeing led to understanding. Understanding led to acceptance, and in that acceptance came peace. The realization that to know one's place in the universe is not to feel small, but to feel at home. Each discovery widens the circle of what we can wonder at. Far beyond the warm comfort of the inner planets, Uranus drifted through the dark like a slow blue ship. Its motion, steady and silent, followed a path that seemed obedient to the pull of the sun. Yet, as the years passed and the measurements grew more precise, astronomers began to notice something unsettling in its grace. The planet did not move exactly as the numbers said it should. Its course trembled just slightly, as though an unseen tide were touching its hull. In the quiet observatories of the 19th century, men bent over their charts by candlelight, tracing the planet's position across the years. Each point on paper was a heartbeat in time, and each heartbeat fell just a little out of rhythm. The difference was so small that to most eyes it meant nothing. The kind of imperfection that might be blamed on the trembling of the hand, the distortion of air, or the limits of the telescope. But to those who listened closely, the pattern was too deliberate to ignore. Uranus was being pulled, gently but persistently, by something no one could see. Mathematics became the language of curiosity. Through equations, astronomers tried to imagine what might be exerting that quiet force. A hidden companion far beyond the known frontier, tugging on Uranus with invisible threads of gravity. The idea felt impossible, and yet beautifully precise. If the planet's path curved where it should have straightened, there had to be a reason written somewhere in the vast black space beyond Neptune's edge. They began to speak of a ghost world, a mass unlit by the sun, bending the rules without ever revealing itself. To describe this in words was difficult, but in thought it was simple. Gravity is the handwriting of the universe, and even when the writer cannot be seen, the message remains. Uranus moved like a pendulum, touched by an invisible hand. Its orbit stretched and softened in ways that whispered of another presence. That whisper was faint, mathematical, and perfectly calm. A murmur from the dark saying that something else was out there, waiting to be found. There is a special kind of wonder in noticing what should not be noticeable. It is the art of paying attention to what silence leaves behind. The astronomers of that age were not chasing light. They were chasing its absence, following the small tremors in a world's motion that hinted at another world's gravity. And in doing so, they proved that mystery does not always hide in the unknown. Sometimes it hides in precision itself. Even silence leaves a signature if you know how to listen. In the middle of the 19th century, long before cameras could capture the sky, a man sat surrounded by papers covered in numbers. Urbain Le Verrier was not staring through a telescope, but through equations, trying to see something that no human eye had yet seen. The data from Uranus did not fit its predicted path, and so he treated the heavens like a great clock, with every planet a gear whose rhythm could be traced by mathematics alone. If one gear stuttered, another must be turning unseen. Somewhere beyond the edge of known space, Le Verrier believed, there was a world pulling at the strings of gravity. Night after night, he tested the numbers, adjusting masses, distances, and angles until the invisible hand that moved Uranus began to take shape. What emerged was not a picture, but a coordinate, a place in the sky where, according to pure reason, a new planet should exist. The prediction was delicate, almost audacious. It asked others to believe not in a sighting, but in a sum. With calm conviction, Le Verrier sent his results to the Berlin Observatory, a letter that contained nothing but an address written in the language of gravity. On the evening of September 23, 1846, Johann Galle pointed his telescope to those coordinates. The dome of the observatory creaked as it turned, the gears shifting slowly into place. The air was cold, the kind that makes sound travel softly. Within minutes, Galle found it, a faint disk of light exactly where the numbers had said it would be. Neptune had been waiting all along, hiding in plain sight. A planet discovered not by the eye, but by the mind. Astronomers call this predictive astronomy, a science that listens to the rhythm of orbits and imagines what must be playing just beyond the notes. It is a quiet triumph of logic, where every digit becomes a whisper from the universe, and every equation is a kind of faith. Faith that order exists, that truth can be found in silence, that the cosmos follows patterns we are capable of understanding. When the news spread, it felt less like conquest and more like revelation. Humanity had not only found another world, it had proved that thought itself could reach across the dark. In that moment, mathematics became more than a tool. It became a sense, an eye that sees without light, a bridge between intellect and wonder. Le Verrier's equations were not just lines of ink. They were a form of belief that the universe, however vast, could be reasoned with. Numbers, too, are a form of faith. Imagine space not as emptiness, but as a vast, silent fabric. Each planet, each star, each grain of dust presses against it, bending the weave ever so slightly. Where the fabric dips, other things begin to move, drawn not by ropes or chains, but by the simple curve of existence itself. This is gravity, not a force thrown across the cosmos, but a gentle folding of space and time, the universe leaning inward wherever mass exists. Einstein would later describe it not as a pull, but as a shape, a geometry written in light. In this endless tapestry, the sun is the great weight, its presence forming a deep valley where planets roll along invisible paths. Earth circles not because it is tethered, but because it is falling forever into that valley, curving just enough to miss the sun each time it passes. Moons drift around their worlds in the same quiet obedience, caught in the harmony of invisible lines. From the smallest pebble to the most distant galaxy, everything moves according to this unspoken design. Nothing in the cosmos is separate. Every motion is a reply to something else's gravity. It is easy to forget how delicate this connection is. The pull that binds galaxies together also holds your feet to the ground. The same rule that bends starlight around a black hole shapes the tides of the sea. Gravity is the soft hum of belonging, a constant reminder that every object knows another's presence even across impossible distances. It is invisible, yet it leaves its fingerprint everywhere. In the arc of a comet, in the slow dance of planets, in the gentle curve of time itself, there is something deeply human in this law. Just as space is woven by gravity, our own lives are woven by unseen threads, memory, love, and longing. You cannot see the weight of someone's kindness, or the way a thought from years ago still pulls at you, but you can feel it. The same quiet order that shapes the stars also shapes connection, making every soul, like every planet, part of a larger orbit. To understand gravity is to understand humility. We are not standing apart from the universe. We are suspended within it, part of a web so vast that even our smallest movements ripple through its fabric. The fall of an apple, the turn of the moon, the heartbeat of the earth, all are notes in the same song played on the strings of space-time. And in that realization, there is peace, because nothing is ever truly alone, not even in the cold silence between stars. Nothing truly moves alone. When Neptune was found, it felt as if the universe had briefly surrendered one of its secrets. Astronomers celebrated a triumph of intellect, a planet discovered not by sight, but by the quiet logic of numbers. Yet beneath that victory, something restless lingered. Uranus, the world whose trembling orbit had led to Neptune's discovery, still refused to behave exactly as it should. Even with the new planet accounted for, its motion carried a faint irregularity, a whisper of imbalance that no calculation could quite erase. It was as if some hidden presence still tugged at its path, patient and unseen, far beyond the known edge of sunlight. In small observatories, men leaned over their telescopes once more, charting the stars with renewed precision, searching for another pattern in the drift. The thought was simple yet daring. If Neptune could be predicted, why not another? Perhaps there existed yet one more world, darker, slower, invisible to the eye but not to gravity. They called it Planet X, the unknown planet, the missing note in the solar harmony. It was not a theory of chaos, but of correction, an attempt to make the cosmic rhythm whole again. Somewhere in the cold, perhaps another planet was moving in quiet obedience to the same laws, its pull just enough to tilt a neighbor's orbit by the smallest degree. In the imagination of the time, Planet X became less a world and more an idea, a beacon for human curiosity glowing faintly in the distance. Observers would look toward the rim of the solar system and wonder if something was there, drifting through the long night, circling the same sun, yet never seen. The thought did not frighten them. It fascinated them. The unknown was not an enemy, but an invitation, a reminder that discovery is never complete. There was something gentle about this mystery. No comets to fear, no portents in the sky, only the suggestion of another companion orbiting in silence. The astronomers who spoke of Planet X were not chasing power. They were listening to the small irregularities in motion, to the soft distortion of light, to the hints of gravity where no planet yet appeared. Their work was slow, deliberate, almost meditative. To seek what cannot be seen is an act of faith, and in that faith, there is calm. The search for Planet X was, in truth, a continuation of humanity's oldest habit: to look beyond what is certain. The heavens were once the realm of gods, later the theater of stars, and now the field of equations. But the feeling remains unchanged, a sense that something more is always waiting just past the horizon of sight. The unknown does not threaten, it invites. The desert of Arizona holds a kind of silence that seems older than time. At night, the wind moves softly across the dry mesas, and the stars burn with a clarity unknown to crowded cities. In 1894, beneath that immense and breathing sky, Percival Lowell built an observatory. A dome of white set against the red earth, a place where a dream could take root. Each night, as the air cooled and the horizon faded into shadow, he climbed the narrow stairs to his telescope, a polished brass instrument aimed toward the uncharted dark. The world below slept. The heavens above did not. Lowell was not searching for beauty or glory. He was chasing precision, the hidden rhythm that might reveal another planet beyond Neptune. To him, the solar system was a grand conversation, and somewhere at its edge, a quiet voice had yet to be heard. He called it Planet X. For years, he recorded the faintest flickers of light, the smallest motions among the stars, his notebooks filled with calculations, coordinates, and sketches of hope, patterns that might someday point to a world unseen. The nights were long and often fruitless, but he remained patient, certain that persistence itself was a form of discovery. There was a kind of poetry in his solitude. While others slept through the calm desert hours, Lowell listened to the hum of the telescope and the faint whisper of dust against metal. Sometimes the wind carried the scent of juniper from the hills. Sometimes the chill of dawn came before his calculations were complete. Still, he searched. He believed that if he watched the same patch of sky long enough, it would eventually reveal what it was hiding. But the dream that filled his life would not complete itself within it. In 1916, before his Planet X could be found, Percival Lowell died, leaving behind the observatory, the data, and the quiet echo of his belief. His eyes closed, but his gaze, that endless curiosity, lingered in the instruments he left behind. For a time, the search went still, as if the universe itself paused to remember the man who had spent his nights listening for its faintest heartbeat. Years later, the photographs taken under his dome would yield what he never saw: a tiny, moving light at the edge of the known. Pluto, the silent answer to a question he had asked until his final night. It was as though the cosmos had waited until he was gone to whisper back, "There is a quiet grace in that," the reminder that some quests are meant to outlive the seeker. The stars do not forget the eyes that look for them, nor the hearts that stay awake in their presence. Some dreams live longer than the dreamers. In a quiet room beneath the Arizona Observatory, drawers of glass photographic plates rested in their wooden cases. Each one was a frozen night sky, silver dust fixed onto glass, every dot a whisper of starlight captured decades before. Among those hundreds of silent frames lay a single image taken in 1915, its surface dimly reflecting the red glow of the lantern that hung above. On it, faint and unremarkable, a small speck of light had shifted ever so slightly between exposures. It was Pluto, already discovered, already recorded, and yet unseen. For 15 years, that photograph slept in darkness. Dust gathered on the edges, seasons changed, and the observatory carried on with other projects. No one knew that the answer to Percival Lowell's lifelong search had been resting quietly all along. The little world he dreamed of had already made its appearance, its name unspoken, its presence unnoticed. In that stillness, Pluto waited, not impatiently but faithfully, as though it understood that discovery has its own timing, that revelation is not always bound to human schedules. There is something almost meditative in that image, a planet existing in anonymity, shining softly across the void, asking for nothing. When scientists later revisited those plates and recognized what had been missed, it did not feel like a failure. It felt like a moment of grace. The universe had not hidden the truth. It had simply allowed it to rest until we were ready to see it. Some discoveries do not need urgency. They bloom when the world is quiet enough to notice. The story of that photograph is not about oversight, but about patience. The kind of patience that trusts the process, the slow unfolding of understanding, the rhythm of time itself. In science, as in life, not every effort reveals its reward immediately. Sometimes, what we seek finds us only after we have let go. The image of Pluto, sleeping in silver grain, becomes a reminder that silence too can preserve truth. Time was the unseen collaborator in Lowell's dream, the final observer who completed the search he began. The years that passed were not wasted. They were part of the discovery itself. When Clyde Tombaugh finally recognized Pluto's faint movement, he was not uncovering something new. He was greeting an old friend long overlooked. The cosmos had been waiting with infinite calm, proving once more that in the great patience of the universe, nothing truly goes unseen forever. Patience is another kind of discovery. The observatory was quiet in the winter of 1930. Outside, the Arizona night stretched cold and clear, the stars sharp as frost. Inside, under the dim red glow of a single lamp, Clyde Tombaugh worked alone. Before him were rows of glass plates, each one a portrait of the heavens, taken days apart. They covered the table like frozen moments in time, thousands of stars scattered across every frame. Somewhere among them, he believed, a small point of light was moving, too faint for the naked eye, too steady for chance. The task was slow, almost meditative. 2 plates were placed side by side into a device called a blink comparator, a kind of mechanical eyelid that let the observer switch rapidly between images. Every time it blinked, the stars remained still, fixed in their eternal positions. But if one speck shifted, even slightly, that would mean motion, a world on the move. Hour after hour, night after night, Clyde leaned forward, his breath quiet, his focus absolute. In that silence, the rhythm of his work became indistinguishable from the rhythm of thought itself. Then, one evening, it happened. Between the frames dated January 23rd and January 29th, a tiny dot had changed position. A small, deliberate step across the void. He checked again and again. The stars stayed faithful. Only that one point wandered. It was not an illusion, nor a trick of light. It was something real, something that had been waiting for years to be noticed. Without celebration or noise, Clyde simply sat back and exhaled. The search was over. Pluto had revealed itself, not with brilliance, but with a whisper. What followed was not the rush of discovery, but a deep calm, the kind that comes from alignment when the universe seems to confirm that patience still matters. Clyde was only 24 years old, a farm boy turned astronomer. Yet his steady discipline had outlasted the restless curiosity of an entire generation. His reward was a quiet light in the dark, proof that endurance and attention could reach farther than luck ever would. When the telegram was sent to Harvard confirming the find, the observatory remained silent, except for the ticking of instruments and the hum of the night wind outside. In that moment, a new world entered the human map, and a long-held dream, Percival Lowell's dream, came gently to rest. The discovery was not loud, not triumphant. It was serene, inevitable, and profoundly human. Sometimes, discovery is simply patience wearing a human face. In the spring of 1930, when news of the new planet reached across the Atlantic, a small girl in Oxford sat at her breakfast table reading about it in the newspaper. Her name was Venetia Burney. She was 11 years old, quiet and thoughtful, fond of mythology and the night sky. When her grandfather asked what the distant world should be called, she paused only a moment before answering. Pluto, the god of the underworld, ruler of the unseen, keeper of what lies beyond the light. It was a name born of both darkness and dignity. The suggestion traveled quickly from England to Arizona, where astronomers at Lowell Observatory were debating the same question. They sought something fitting for a world so remote, one that would honor both the mystery of its discovery and the memory of the man who had dreamed of it. Pluto seemed perfect. The first two letters, P and L, quietly carried Percival Lowell's initials, as if the universe itself had left a signature for him. On March 24, 1930, the name became official, and a new chapter in celestial mythology began. It was a beautiful choice. Pluto was not a planet of fire or brilliance. It lived in shadow, reflecting only a fraction of the sun's light. Through telescopes, it appeared as the faintest of specks, cold and distant, but steady. A dim reminder that even in the outermost darkness, light persists. The name suited it like a poem suits silence, both reverent and inevitable. For the ancients, Pluto ruled the underworld, a realm not of evil, but of quiet permanence, where things went unseen, yet continued to exist. For modern astronomy, Pluto ruled the frontier, the threshold between what we know and what we have yet to understand. There is something tender about this bridge between myth and science. A child's imagination reached into the past and gave language to the farthest future. And in doing so, it joined two human instincts that have always moved together: to name and to know. Every name is an act of intimacy, a way of drawing the distant a little closer, of giving shape to what might otherwise remain faceless. To name Pluto was not to claim it, but to welcome it into our shared story. As telescopes turned toward that dim speck and the data began to grow, its name remained its truest image: soft, solemn, enduring. A reminder that even the smallest light in the farthest dark can carry meaning. It is the kind of truth that belongs equally to mythology and mathematics, the sense that wonder, once spoken, becomes eternal. Even the farthest shadow holds a spark of myth. When astronomers first measured Pluto's light and motion, they expected to find the long-sought giant, the heavy planet whose pull could explain the trembling orbits of Uranus and Neptune. But the numbers told a gentler truth. Pluto was far too small, its gravity barely a whisper in the solar symphony. At only 0.2% the mass of Earth, it could not have shaped the paths of its neighbors. The mysterious planet X remained a dream, and Pluto, quiet, distant, shimmering, was something else entirely. The revelation brought no anger, only a hush of realization. The universe, it seemed, had given not what was wanted, but what was needed. Instead of a colossus, humanity had found a lesson in humility. The great search for power and influence had led to a world of fragility. A planet that reflected sunlight like a grain of frost, that circled faithfully without commanding anything around it. The astronomers who once imagined a vast unseen force now looked upon a small world, steady and self-contained, and felt a kind of peace. Discovery, they understood, does not always mean conquest. Sometimes it means learning to listen to the quiet things. In the dark beyond Neptune, Pluto moves in silence, tracing its long oval path around the Sun once every 248 years. Its orbit is tilted, a little off balance, as though it prefers to watch from the side rather than join the main procession. And yet, it keeps moving, patient, precise, untroubled by what others expect it to be. Like a child wandering just beyond the circle of a fire's light, it remains a part of the gathering, unseen but never apart. There is tenderness in that image. Humanity, too, has often mistaken size for significance, mass for meaning. Yet Pluto, in its stillness, reminds us that wonder is not measured by scale. It was too small to disturb the giants, but large enough to stir imagination, to change how we think about what it means to be a planet, to be seen, to exist. Its faint glow has illuminated questions larger than itself. What defines a world? What gives something its worth? The disappointment faded, replaced by quiet respect. The search for Planet X had begun as a quest for influence and ended as a meditation on perspective. Sometimes, the universe teaches by surprise, by giving us less than we hoped for, but more than we understood. Pluto was not the answer, but it was the reminder that even small worlds, when noticed, can reshape the boundaries of thought. Small worlds still bend the light of thought. In 1978, a quiet discovery added a companion to the most distant of worlds. Through a telescope in Arizona, astronomer James Christie noticed that Pluto's image was not a single steady point. It wavered, a faint bump shifting from one side to the other as the days passed. The movement was subtle, rhythmic, like a heartbeat in the darkness. That trembling light revealed something remarkable. Pluto was not alone. Beside it moved a moon almost half its size, a world named Charon. Out there, more than 5 billion kilometers from the warmth of the sun, two small bodies circled one another in silence. They were not bound like most planets and their moons, where one dominates and the other obeys. Pluto and Charon were equals in their pull, locked in a slow and endless rotation around a point in space that belonged to neither of them. the barycenter. It was as though gravity itself had negotiated a truce, allowing both to move, both to lead, both to follow. Together, they drifted through the cold, tracing a shared orbit that would last for eternity. Seen from afar, their dance is almost tender. Charon's pale surface reflects the same dim sunlight that touches Pluto, and as they revolve, the same side of each always faces the other. They do not turn away, nor do they come closer. Their distance is constant, their rhythm perfectly balanced. In that frozen harmony, there is a quiet poetry. Two wanderers keeping each other company on the edge of the solar system, moving through the dark without ever parting. Astronomers call this a dual system, a pairing so balanced that it blurs the line between planet and moon. It is a reminder that gravity, like affection, is not always about dominance or control. Sometimes it is simply the agreement to move together, to let distance define connection rather than diminish it. Between Pluto and Charon lies a space filled with stillness, and in that stillness lives the thread that binds them. The farther one looks into the universe, the more such relationships appear. Stars with twin companions, galaxies entwined in slow embrace. Perhaps it is the universe's way of whispering that even in its coldest corners, companionship endures. The vastness between Pluto and Charon does not separate them, it sustains them. They move apart and remain together, bound by gravity's invisible promise. Connection often lives in the space between. In 1951, astronomer Gerard Kuiper proposed a thought that stretched the edge of imagination, that the solar system did not end with Neptune. Beyond the last bright planet, he believed, there must be a field of ancient debris, a silent sea of ice and stone left from the time when worlds were still forming. It was not yet called the Kuiper Belt, but the idea shimmered like a distant mirage, a boundary not of fire and light, but of frost and memory. For decades, the theory remained only a whisper. Then, one by one, faint points of light began to appear in telescopes. Small frozen bodies moving in slow procession, confirming that Kuiper had seen the truth long before anyone else. This region, now known as the Kuiper Belt, stretches far beyond Neptune, a vast ring of icy remnants encircling the sun. Thousands of objects drift there, tiny worlds of methane, water, and rock, untouched since the dawn of the solar system. They orbit slowly through the dark, their surfaces reflecting sunlight as pale as breath on glass. To imagine standing on one of these worlds is to feel time itself slow down. The sun, a distant spark. The stars, steady and sharp. The silence so deep it almost hums. It is easy to think of this place as an ending, the last shoreline before the great Black Sea beyond. Yet it is also a beginning, a frozen archive of creation where the raw materials of planets still linger, unshaped and unspoiled. In every fragment of ice lies a story from 4 billion years ago, when dust and light first learned to dance together. The Kuiper Belt is not just a collection of leftovers. It is the memory of how everything began, preserved in cold and quiet perfection. Astronomers sometimes call it the solar system's twilight, the zone where sunlight fades but never disappears. Here, Pluto is only one wanderer among many, moving through the dim expanse like a thought returning to its origin. Beyond this belt lies the Oort cloud, where comets sleep for millennia before returning inward, like reminders from the deep. Between these layers of distance, the cosmos holds its balance, a rhythm between light and the absence of it. There is a gentle awe in knowing such places exist. They remind us that not everything in the universe burns brightly. Some regions are meant to remain hushed, to keep the first silence intact. Just as memory softens but never vanishes, the frozen horizon beyond Neptune endures as the solar system's oldest breath, a pause between creation and eternity. Every silence remembers where it came from. At the farthest edge of the sun's reach, where daylight thins into a soft and endless dusk, lies a realm of quiet abundance. Here, in the frozen dark beyond Neptune, thousands of small worlds drift in patient silence. They are called Kuiper Belt objects, remnants from the beginning, fragments that never joined the larger planets, each tracing its own lonely orbit through the dim light. In this outer province of the solar system, the sun appears no brighter than a distant star, and time seems to move with the rhythm of glacial breath. Among these wanderers are names both strange and beautiful: Chiron, Pholus, Eris, Haumea, Makemake. Some are round, others irregular, shaped by collisions and frozen tides billions of years ago. Their surfaces are layered with methane, ice, and shadow. Their paths long and unpredictable. To look upon them is to gaze backward into the solar system's childhood, when gravity was wild and creation chaotic, when everything collided, merged, or spun away. What remains now are the survivors of that ancient storm, still circling the sun with quiet persistence. Astronomers have come to see this region as a kind of celestial archive. Each small body carries a record written in ice, traces of temperature, chemistry, and time preserved perfectly by the cold. These worlds are not forgotten by the cosmos. They are simply waiting, whispering their stories to the few instruments sensitive enough to hear. Through them, humanity reads the history of its home star system, page by frozen page, as if uncovering the memory of its own birth. The poetry of this place lies not in its brightness, but in its endurance. These small, overlooked objects prove that existence is not defined by prominence. They do not shine like stars, nor command like planets, but they remain, faithful to their quiet paths, holding the secrets of a younger universe. There is comfort in that kind of persistence. Even at the edge of light, something continues to move, to remember, to be. In many ways, the Kuiper Belt resembles the landscape of human memory. We forget details, yet they do not vanish. They linger, orbiting in the mind's distance, faint but unbroken, shaping who we are in ways we may never see. The forgotten is not gone. It has simply settled into quiet emotion. The heart, like the cosmos, keeps its own cold archives. And sometimes, when we are still enough, we can sense their gravity pulling softly from afar. Nothing is truly gone, only waiting in the dark. In January of 2006, from a small launch pad on Earth, a silver vessel the size of a piano rose into the sky and began its long, quiet journey. It was called New Horizons, a name that felt less like a title and more like a promise. Behind it, the blue world of its makers grew smaller with every heartbeat, until it was only another point of light among many. Ahead stretched the vastness of the solar system, a path of sunlight, fading into darkness. The craft, would travel more than 5 billion kilometers, crossing the orbits of planets that had taken humanity centuries to understand, carrying with it the simplest of human messages: curiosity. The mission was delicate in purpose, yet immense in spirit. New Horizons was built to do what no machine had ever done: to visit Pluto, the faint and distant world that had lived for so long in the realm of theory and shadow. It carried instruments to photograph, to measure, to listen. But above all, it carried the collective gaze of Earth, the quiet longing to see farther. Powered by the slow pulse of a nuclear heart, it coasted through the black with no need for applause, communicating through signals that took hours to reach home. Each bit of data, each whisper of light, was a postcard from the edge of the sun's domain. For 9 years, the spacecraft drifted between giants and emptiness. It passed Jupiter and used its gravity like a sling, stealing momentum to quicken its flight. It crossed regions where sunlight is no stronger than the glow of a candle. And through it all, it remained steadfast. A tiny machine moving through infinite silence, guided by equations, radio waves, and a dream that had begun decades earlier in the minds of those who had refused to stop wondering. When it finally approached Pluto in July 2015, it did not slow down to linger. There was no engine powerful enough to stop its motion. Only the brief opportunity to look, to capture, to remember. As it passed, New Horizons turned its cameras and revealed the world we had imagined for a century. A landscape of ice mountains, plains of frozen nitrogen, and a heart-shaped basin glowing softly beneath the weak sun. The images returned home days later, crossing the void like long-delayed letters from a traveler. Humanity saw them and felt for a moment the impossible made intimate. Even now, New Horizons continues outward, deeper into the dark, beyond the map's edge. It is a fragment of us, a piece of hope moving through silence, still sending faint signals across the void. The journey it began was not only for Pluto, but for everything we have yet to reach. A reminder that exploration is not just movement through space, but faith carried through time. Every journey is a signal sent into the dark. On a quiet July morning in 2015, a signal arrived at Earth after traveling more than 4.5 hours through space. A thread of radio light carrying the first close images of Pluto. Engineers and scientists waited in the control room, surrounded by the low hum of machines and the soft pulse of monitors. When the picture finally resolved, the room fell silent. On the screen, against the black ocean of space, lay a pale, round world streaked with shadows and light. And there, across its frozen surface, glowed the unmistakable shape of a heart. It was not just a mark of geology, but a symbol that reached beyond science. The heart-shaped region, later named Tombaugh Regio in honor of Pluto's discoverer, stretched across the planet's equator, its smooth plains of nitrogen ice reflecting the dim sunlight like a mirror of frost. Mountains of water ice rose from the plains, some taller than the Rockies, carved and reshaped by slow, ancient flows. Craters were rare, meaning the surface was young, alive in its own quiet way. The images revealed a world not dead and still, but dynamic, shaped by motion, by time, by something like persistence. For generations, Pluto had been imagined as little more than a shadow, a frozen relic at the edge of the solar system. Yet now, it had a face, textured, luminous, intricate. The photographs sent by New Horizons felt almost tender, as if the universe had leaned closer for a moment to be seen clearly. What once was distant became intimate, and the idea of coldness began to change. Even in the farthest reaches, where sunlight is barely a memory, there was beauty, structure, and the echo of warmth. Scientists marveled at the detail, but for many watching, it was something simpler. A feeling of connection. That heart of frozen nitrogen seemed to beat softly through the void, carrying the memory of those who had dreamed of this moment. Lowell, Tombaugh, the nameless engineers who built the craft, and the countless eyes that had looked up, wondering what waited out there. The heart on Pluto was a signature written in ice, a reminder that curiosity too leaves imprints that last. There is something profoundly human in finding warmth where we expect only cold. The heart of Pluto was not placed there by chance or intention, yet it spoke to both. It reminded us that the act of looking, of reaching, of caring can transform even the most distant silence into meaning in a universe made mostly of darkness. This faint symbol of life glowed quietly, saying that even the farthest world can be touched by light. Even ice remembers warmth. In the summer of 2006, astronomers from around the world gathered in Prague to decide on a question that had quietly followed science for decades. What exactly is a planet? The meeting was calm but decisive. For the first time, a formal definition was written. 3 simple conditions that would decide whether a celestial body earned that title. A planet, they agreed, must orbit the sun. It must be massive enough for gravity to shape it into a near-perfect sphere. And finally, it must have cleared its orbit, meaning it must dominate the space around it, sweeping away smaller objects that share its path. Pluto met the first 2, but not the third. Its small mass and tilted orbit left it traveling among countless icy neighbors in the Kuiper belt. And so, quietly, it was reclassified as a dwarf planet. The announcement sent a ripple through both science and sentiment. Some astronomers felt relief. The solar system now had clearer order, a structure grounded in logic. Others felt loss, as if something familiar had been taken away. For generations, students had memorized 9 planets, and now one of them was being moved to a different chapter of the story. The public reacted with gentle protest. Children wrote letters asking that Pluto be restored. Teachers smiled and rewrote their lessons. Yet through it all, Pluto itself remained unchanged, distant, indifferent, circling the same star it always had. In truth, the redefinition did not diminish the world. It only reminded us of our need to categorize, to give things names so that we might feel we understand them. But nature does not bend to our language. Pluto did not shrink when its title changed. Its orbit did not falter. Its frozen plains did not cease to shine beneath the dim sunlight. The planet, or dwarf planet, simply continued, carrying on with its quiet rhythm, teaching by example the art of acceptance. The moment became less about classification and more about humility. For all our systems and definitions, the universe moves by its own rules, unconcerned with what we call it. Pluto, drifting serenely beyond Neptune, remains what it has always been, a small, steadfast wanderer keeping its distance yet belonging all the same. There is a quiet dignity in that. It is the dignity of endurance, of knowing that one's worth is not in the label, but in the journey itself. In a way, Pluto's story mirrors our own. Names come and go, roles change, recognition fades. Yet what we are and what we continue to do remains. Like that pale world tracing its endless path, we orbit the light that sustains us, not for titles or applause, but because movement itself is meaning. Names fade, orbits remain. Pluto, though small and cold, became one of humanity's greatest teachers. Its discovery, reclassification, and exploration reshaped how we see the solar system, not as a tidy family of 9 worlds, but as a vast and varied landscape of objects, each following its own quiet path. Beyond Neptune lies not emptiness, but abundance, an entire region of frozen bodies, each carrying fragments of the sun's early story. Pluto taught us that the edges of things are rarely edges at all. They are beginnings we have not yet learned to see. Through Pluto, astronomers learned that the solar system is far richer and more dynamic than once imagined. It revealed that small worlds can hold deep secrets, that icy plains and distant moons can move with elegance and purpose. The lesson was not one of dominance, but of perspective. Science, at its heart, is not a conquest, but a conversation. A way of listening to the universe with patience and respect. Every new measurement, every image of frozen light from the edge of the sun's reach reminds us that knowing more does not make us greater. It makes us quieter. There is a kind of stillness that comes with understanding how vast creation truly is. To stand beneath the night sky and imagine those distant orbits is to feel both humbled and comforted. Humbled by the scale, comforted by the belonging. The same gravity that keeps Pluto tethered to the sun keeps us anchored to our world. The same light that touches its ice also warms our oceans. To study the universe is to recognize that we are not apart from it. We are threads in the same fabric, shaped by the same forces, drifting through the same time. Those who watch Pluto's orbit speak of it not with pride, but with wonder. To chart its slow revolution is to measure patience itself, a single year on Pluto lasting longer than a human lifetime. And yet it moves, steady and faithful, its rhythm unbroken. The astronomers who track it are like musicians following a distant melody, knowing that to listen is an act of devotion. Their work is not driven by glory, but by gratitude. Gratitude for the chance to witness, to ask, to learn. In the end, that is the quiet gift of discovery. Knowledge is not a ladder to climb, but a horizon to approach, endlessly receding, endlessly beautiful. To be curious is not to demand answers, but to show reverence for the mystery that remains. The sky does not yield to arrogance, it opens itself to humility. Curiosity is a form of reverence. Long after its fleeting encounter with Pluto, the spacecraft New Horizons continues its quiet voyage into the deep. It travels farther each year, through a darkness so vast that sunlight there is no brighter than a whisper. Yet from time to time, a faint signal still reaches Earth, a thin thread of radio waves, stretched and softened by billions of kilometers of emptiness. It takes more than 4 hours for that signal to cross the gulf. A message traveling at the speed of light, carrying with it the memories of a world once visited. The dish antennas that receive it must listen carefully, filtering cosmic noise from meaning, like hands catching dust from a long closed window. Each signal is a memory, a small archive of what New Horizons has seen and known. Within its data are the reflections of Pluto's icy plains, the shadows of its mountains, the glimmer of sunlight scattered across nitrogen frost. But beneath the measurements, there is something deeper. The echo of human intent, the proof that curiosity can outlast its creators. Every transmission is a kind of heartbeat, reminding us that even in the silence of space, our search for understanding continues to speak. The farther the craft drifts, the slower its messages become, as if time itself was stretching to test the patience of those waiting to receive them. Yet the faintness of its signal does not lessen its meaning. The universe too remembers, though slowly, gently, like a long breath held between stars. Light from ancient galaxies still reaches us after billions of years. The hiss of the Big Bang still hums faintly through radio waves. Memory in the cosmos is not lost. It simply moves at a different pace. So it is with our own remembering. Memories fade in volume, but not in existence. They drift, becoming softer, sometimes unreachable, until something, a sound, a word, a face, tunes us back to their frequency. Like New Horizons calling across the dark, our memories do not vanish when unacknowledged. They wait. They linger, patient and faithful, hoping to be heard again. The image of that small craft, still whispering into the vastness, carries a tenderness that transcends technology. It does not know if anyone is listening, and yet it speaks. Not because it must, but because that is what it was made to do. In that act lies the quiet essence of remembrance, the persistence of voice against silence, of connection against distance. Somewhere in a control room on Earth, a faint beep arrives from the edge of the sun's influence, and for a moment, the universe feels less empty. Every echo is a way of being remembered. As the years passed and the data from New Horizons settled into the archives of human knowledge, Pluto took on a new kind of importance. It was no longer the ninth planet, nor a symbol of debate or nostalgia. It became something quieter, more profound, a reminder that the solar system is not a hierarchy, but a harmony, not a ladder of greatness, but a community of motion. Each world, from Jupiter's vast storms to Pluto's frozen plains, moves in its own rhythm, tracing orbits that never collide, each held by the same sunlight, each part of the same design. Pluto and its kin, Eris, Haumea, Makmek, Ceres, are no longer seen as misfits on the edge of order, but as storytellers of diversity. Together, they show that there is no single mold for what a world must be. The universe does not favor the large or the luminous. It cherishes variety. The dwarf planets remind us that the cosmos thrives not on perfection, but on inclusion, on the quiet coexistence of everything that moves, however small, however far. In their cold, steady revolutions, these worlds speak softly of balance, of patience, of belonging. For those who look up, there is comfort in that. The realization that our solar neighborhood is not built on rank, but on relationship, changes how we see ourselves. We, too, orbit around hopes, around one another, around ideas that shape our lives in ways we can barely measure. Meaning does not come from being central, but from continuing to move, to reflect light, to remain part of the whole. Like Pluto, we are small, but our motion carries grace. Our existence is enough to complete a pattern larger than we can see. In the stillness of cosmic time, such understanding feels like peace. To know that every grain of dust, every drifting moon, every thought, every heartbeat adds something to the fabric of what is. That is a kind of quiet liberation. The universe does not need us to be great. It only asks that we continue to turn, to listen, to exist. And in that simple persistence lies a beauty deeper than any title or rank could offer. The music of the planets is not a march, but a hum, gentle, endless, unbroken. Somewhere beyond Neptune, Pluto continues its long orbit, steady and unhurried, keeping company with worlds as small and steadfast as itself. Together, they form the soft edge of the solar system, a chorus of faint voices reminding us that significance is not measured by size, but by presence. Even the smallest world holds a universe of meaning. The night has grown still again. Around you, the air moves softly, cool against your skin. Your breath rises and falls, quiet as the motion of a tide. And somewhere beneath it, your heartbeat echoes the rhythm of distant worlds. Every atom within you was once part of a star, the dust of creation carried through billions of years to find its place in you tonight. Pluto still moves through its long and silent orbit, patient and unhurried, a small world content to shine faintly in the dark. You too are part of that same motion, the quiet turning of the cosmos, the endless exchange between light and time. Let that thought settle. Let it rest inside you like calm water. The universe does not rush, and neither must you. You are made of the same stardust that still glows beyond Neptune. Rest now. The universe is still turning, and it remembers your light.